Welcome to Breaking MedTech. I am Ryan. This is Cope. No one's allowed to call him Mark. Not even the Pope.
Let's be friends.
Let's be friends. Yeah, Cope wants to be friends with everyone. So today's episode, Cope and I are going to fight digitally while we talk about marketing funnels, buyer's journeys. They're kind of the same thing. But the steps that somebody takes from moving from not knowing about you to actually knowing about you buying and hopefully becoming an evangelist for your product. I'll let Mark Cope talk a little bit about how it's been done historically in med device and med tech. And then I'm going to just let him pepper me with questions and I'm going to answer them.
Yeah, let's do this because I say, my friends call me Cope. Aren't we friends? But we're gonna not be as friendly this morning because I'm an old school med device salesperson who says, and I'm a bit skeptical of marketing, frankly. The marketing people I've listened to sort of sound like pointy-headed nerds from a university who teach marketing to 21-year-olds. And then the real world intervenes and you find, oh, wait, we do need salespeople to go out and talk about our product and handle the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, if I can quote a famous writer. And I'm skeptical because here's what med device has done, and it's been effective by objective measures. Hire people like me, train them up. Sometimes they have, and then we just go get after it. And we introduce the product. We persuade unsuspecting, unaware end users, and ultimately they convert to users, and mission accomplished, and now it's on to the next unsuspecting.
You honestly, the way that you describe that is like Thanos conquering every known planet in the Marvel universe, like Endgame, when he was like, oh my God, all the nerds are going to be mad at me. I think I am inevitable. And,
so I've not seen that movie.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Okay.
With lines on
yeah,
his
he's a big rocky-looking dude.
Purple.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to upset people.
Right.
So,
and I'm not quite going to say I am inevitable, but I will tell you, med device sales for a long time, in many of the aspects of it, was filled with people who were hunters and farmers, or conquerors and farmers. Mm-hmm. And I worked for a guy who I think is like, at one point, he's the textbook definition of conquer. The minute he got somebody's business, next. But I tend to think like if you really have a new product, my default setting, you have a new product, you want to go sell it, let's go get 20 people who have relationships with our end user. Let's train them up and let's go. And it's expensive, but it has worked.
Absolutely.
And you come talking to me about your buyer's journeys and funnels. I'm skeptical, right? So my first question to you is why should I not be skeptical?
So I would tell you not to be skeptical because you've actually been doing buyer journeys. If you really think about it, like if we were going to let's go old school 20 years ago, you have that's actually it's 2006 now, 2005.
Well,
it was 20 years ago.
Let's go later. I was calling on NICUs with a product, and I had no relationships in NICUs, but I had a product that was perfect for them, and I went and got about 12 NICUs to start using us where I had no relationships. I went and conquered.
And you did that. And what I was going to say was like before, like the way that it traditionally would work where like buyer's journey actually was the thing. Like if we went old school, we've talked about it before, like trade shows were the awareness thing. So like when I look at a buyer's journey, I break it into 4 categories. There's other ones that have 5 categories. People call them different things. But it's basically awareness for me. It is awareness, education, conversion, and then I like calling it delight, just because I like that word. And the idea is like awareness, people become aware of you. Education, they're learning about what the problem really is and why they should buy you. Conversion is, the conversion material. And we could talk about what that looks like in
Yeah.
today's world. And delight is like support afterwards so that they become an evangelist for your product, right? And what I would tell you is the journey has actually been happening, right? So let's go old school spine days for you. All right. They would stop by the Globus booth. Okay. They would become aware of Globus or a new product or whatever. Maybe they became aware because you were just looming over it. They turned around on a scrub sink and they just saw a shadow, and they turn around and they're looking at like your chest because you're so big. And they're like, oh, oop, here we go. And then the education is all of the times that you're talking to them and going like, hey, this is why you should use us. I'm educating you about that. You have this problem, right? And then the conversion is we're doing a lab in King of Prussia. You're on the list. You're coming. You're going to use it hands on, right? And then the delight portion is like you're there every other day, two days a week, making sure they have their products, making sure they're up to date on what materials, what's new stuff is coming. Like, so that process is happening and has always happened. It's just how do you digitize it in today's world, where some of the earlier stages, like awareness and education, can you do portions of that or a majority of the awareness and education portion digitally without ever having to send a rep out there to actually talk? So when they go from education to the conversion stage, they're actually way more qualified and you can do it with way less reps. So I would say fundamentally, you've been doing it the entire time. It's just all been manual. I'm trying to digitize it.
Okay, so we got, let me see if I wrote your 4 steps down: awareness, education, conversion, and delight, which I think is the band that did Groove is in the Heart from the 90s, just in case you're wondering. Delight. It's a good, catchy song. Okay, but I would say, but the process was I made them aware.
Yeah.
Because the marketing material I got was this product is indicated for this. It is this. It is Nerdsville, and it wasn't provocative. It didn't talk about a problem. All it said was it was basically a technique guide or some one-page slick that showed you the different sizes of something and nobody cared. So why would I turn that over to the marketing team who all they do is put out product tech sheets?
Well, we're not going to do that anymore here at ABC Medical.
No, okay, so now I'm a little less. A little
less.
Okay.
So what, and I can't share my screen, but what I have is, let's talk about the awareness portion. Let's start there. Okay. You can be everywhere at once, right, Mark? I mean, right, Cope?
Well, I'm Thanos. No, of course not.
Okay. I just want to make sure. So you can't be.
Question.
It is a leading question. You can't be everywhere at once, but you know what the internet is, right? You know what websites are. You know what social media are. You know what digital ads are. All that stuff.
Yeah, but Ryan, who's going to look at that stuff if I don't send them there?
Well, that's a good question. Who is going to look at that stuff if you don't send it there? So with awareness, let's say you're a small company, because that's really who we care about. Okay. If you're a small company, there are a lot of different ways to gain awareness. Okay. You have organic ways, you have paid ways. All right. And
what's organic?
We'll get it. We'll get there. Organic means you're not paying for it. So like you pay time for it, right? You're doing time and maybe you hire somebody to help you, but it's not like a paid ad that you're doing on LinkedIn or Google or any of those other platforms.
Okay.
Or even like if you were doing like any of the journals that have digital or physical, like those would all be awareness stuff, right? But like with awareness content, you have video series, like educational video series, blogs, infographics, social media posts. If you have a founder who's really charming and they know how to talk to people and they're an industry expert and they can gain awareness, right? That is how you gain awareness of who you are as a brand, what problems you solve, everything that you do. I would say it, when is it effective? Yes, it is effective. It may not be as bashing someone over the head as like you standing behind them in a scrub sink or like wandering through like the back of the NICU and
Right.
like almost like it's not as effective as that from a
Right.
time perspective, but from like an actual effectiveness perspective, those types of things are good at attracting the ideal audience that you are trying to attract.
Okay. So awareness. I think I know the answer to this. So you tell me if I'm right or wrong. The goal of awareness, the awareness marketing, like is to when somebody says, "Oh, I know what that thing is," or "I've seen that," I'm familiar, right? Like the
Yeah.
whole goal is to raise familiarity. I don't like. I've never liked the term aware because I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, I'm aware that there's like whatever. This is familiarity. I've heard about that. I saw some ad or somebody said something to me about that. I didn't really tie it to me, but at least I know what it is. Okay. I'm going to circle back to that. I'm going to make a note to
Okay.
circle back to one of the reasons I do think that's important. Usually I still think I'm better than the marketing at it, but I understand what you're saying because as you mentioned, I'm large. I show up on Doppler radar, and that tends to make people aware.
I actually, I just want to. I know I often joke that you're very large. For anyone who has watched any of our episodes in video, it is just. I look like a child next to you, and I'm just shy of 6 foot. It's not like I am like a 7-year-old, like my son. Like it's like the difference between me sitting next to my son and you. So all right, so the next stage, I
Next stage
call
is education, right?
education. Yeah.
If I'm following you.
Some
Okay, so people now, we're going to walk this customer, potential customer,
Yeah.
right? And we don't even know if they're technically ideal, but this person who is aware, now we've caught their attention on some fundamental level.
Yeah.
And now we're going to educate them on our product. Like, do you feel like that's what it? I know
Yeah,
you just
like
rattled
a
off
little
list,
bit, a little bit more about the problem and the product, right? Like your
okay.
education, you're educating them. Like, hey, do you have this problem? What are the things? Like these are like when you see, good things that I like to do in the education stage would be like guides, like webinars, guides, infographics. You could do LinkedIn Lives, like things where you're educating and really hammering down with that person. Like, this is an actual problem that you're facing, or this is a problem in your industry, and you're going to learn more and more about it because, that's what you need to do before you make a purchase. And the nice thing for today's buyers is, you and I talk to enough people in the healthcare world where they go like, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time. Or like people who you're supposed to meet with someone and they cancel on you and you can't meet. And it's not like they're doing it intentionally where they don't like you. It's like a fire
Stuff
popped
happens
up.
in
Yeah.
especially in healthcare. Yeah.
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 Like a fire popped out. Like I can't tell you how many times I got like a text message or a phone call and be like, I can't meet in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like this is where people can do it on their own time, which would be a selling point of why you should do this type of stuff. But for an example, like of what would be something I would do for this, like what would I think would be a good education, and I think this kind of also ties into awareness. Like it's kind of like a that part where the oceans meet.
Okay.
And
Or where the bay leads into the
yeah,
ocean.
yeah, like
Yeah.
where it's
Right.
kind of, it is a like if you did a like let's say you were selling I always joke about this, but like OR efficiency software or like scheduling software, like what if you did like a webinar series on interviewing perioperative professionals who have made changes, like actual changes, not software changes, but like actual like real changes,
Process and yeah.
processes, and like, hey, we did this and this cut turnover times by this much. And you did a webinar series where you brought these people in, you interviewed them, they were like a half hour, you recorded them, yeah, like, and they came in and they talked about it and they were educational and they were valuable. You're providing valuable information to your target audience. They're looking at you. They're going like, oh, these
Right.
people actually know what they're doing. They're helping me. Oh, this is a problem. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, they go like, hey, just remember this was sponsored by
Right. So
ABC
that's the
software.
awareness into education and cementing your awareness more too, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I have to admit I like that. So we've we've gone awareness. We've been now educating them and frankly teaching or showing them we know. We're sort of subtly showing them we know what we're talking about, but we're really trying to, in your example, educate them on things others, their peers, do to solve
Yeah.
sort of the same problem, regardless of whether it's us or not. I mean, what ultimately,
Yeah.
what
So,
is that?
I mean, the idea behind that portion, because I think that is something people struggle with, is like, uh, if I told you that once a month we were going to have a webinar about our product, you just wouldn't show up. It's not a realistic situation. It's why like the actual real life version of this was when when you and I have been to conferences or industry events sponsored by, think about pharma. Okay, when you used to do pharma, like didn't you guys have dinners where like a doctor would come and talk about
All the time, all the
something
time, peer to peer.
something a peer to peer that has nothing to do with the product at all. They were educating about sinus infections in
Yeah,
adolescent teens who live in forested areas. I don't know. It just got real specific.
right.
And then like you'd have a bunch of doctors go, and it was sponsored by whatever big pharma company was there. And then at the end, he would go like blah 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 blah, or she would go, hey, this is thing about this product, okay. And
Yeah,
that's an educational event.
it's funny. People who weren't in pharma think that pharma would just bring in speakers to speak on their drug, and that's not what they did. They'd come in and talk about cardiovascular disease for because they were an expert or a cardiologist at Stanford, right?
Yeah.
And they would come in and say, "Hey, here's the latest and greatest research and knowledge and data and information on cardiac disease." And they would walk through it, and and at some point, usually they were somebody who used your product, but it was education. Like doctors came to be kept up to date. It was like a podium talk, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, they might say, "Hey, this is sponsored by Pfizer. Like, here's where I use Norvasc, and it's in this subtle set of patients that we talked about, like third line therapy, blank, blank." But it was credibility. But really, the takeaway were two things. I remember this because I had to learn this. The takeaways were, "Wow, I'm up to speed on cardiovascular disease in my patient population in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, right? Because you brought somebody in from Stanford. And I know a little bit about your product now. I know kind of where to use it. And it's not coming from the rep, it's coming from an expert, right? And
Yeah.
and your product might come up a teeny tiny bit, or somebody would say like, "Hey, I've been thinking about using this. and you said you have some experience. When do you use it? And it was, they were really, for the most part, really well done and informative,
Hmm.
and did it help promote your product? Secondarily, it absolutely did because it was credibility, which goes to the education part you were just talking about. They were educational meetings.
Yeah, but and
We
they
didn't have CME with them, I don't think, but So I'm
so
sorry, right? Go ahead.
no, so like that, and that's where like that's why I go like that's an awareness thing. That's a because like where it becomes awareness is like if you're doing webinars like that, throw and you want to get some extra eyes on it, you can promote it via ads, or obviously you're promoting it on your social media channels and people. So like that is where your they kind of blend together for me, but they are defined because usually in that education consideration, right, that stage, they're going on your website, they're probably giving you an email, you're sending them follow up emails. Um, you're staying
About your
top of
product or
mind.
about education? What
It could be both, right? So
okay,
like, because what I would say is like the goal of the education and consideration stage for me is to get somebody's email. Because if you get somebody's email, that means that they're actually, and in like it, and not in like a tricky way, but like, you know,
right.
depending on how warm, like if somebody downloads a guide, can you send them like a 3-part email that kind of explains here's the problem, here's why it's such a big deal, here's how we solve it. Boom. Don't bother the person again, right? Don't say it's like there's actually a bunch of data coming out that's showing that like 25 email sequences that are sales focused sequences don't work. Oh, no surprise. Um,
Newsflash.
Newsflash.
Hold on, I'm getting my producers on my ear telling me that'll never work. Yeah, because it
Um,
doesn't.
well,
Duh.
and I guess sometimes it does, but like realistically, a well written like 3 to 5 email sequence is probably more than enough to try to convert someone, right? And honestly, again, if we're looking at like medtech, nobody's going to buy something, okay, from an
Right.
email. Like you're not going out unrealistic that like someone's going to start using a total joint system because of an email. But what they might do is schedule a demo or schedule something to see a rep. So like the goal for the education consideration stage for me is like actually to get a demo, but can you do something in between where like I call it a transitional call to action. Lots of people call it that. That's not, I didn't make it up. Where um, you it's a transitional call to action and then you follow up with an email sequence because that was ultimately when you asked me to talk about this, it was like how do you use your website, how do you use emails,
Right.
and that's where those things come in is like when someone is aware of you, they're aware of you when they click on your website. For me, they're now aware of you, but now they're educating themselves about you and they're considering you and what does this group actually do and how can they help me, which is why your website's so important. And then you have webinars and all of these things, and they're feeding into like, is somebody actually going to eventually schedule a demo? And then we get to the conversion stage or I
Okay,
call it
so that's
conversion.
your transitional action. I
Yeah.
forget what you. And
Transitional
now
call to action.
transitional call to action. Now they're becoming. Now they're moving into. I think we used to look at it as a funnel.
Yeah.
I think you've described it as more of a journey, which I think.
I like Journey. It's just
Okay,
softer. Makes me think of the 70s and the music. Bob Dylan.
I don't even understand what you're talking about, but
Neither do I.
okay. So now I understand. So they go awareness, or they know you're out there. Their
Hmm.
familiarity for me is the term I use, but awareness is the appropriate term. Then
Hmm.
to education, which means you're educating them about, generally speaking, the problem, occasionally the product that you have that solves it, and if on one of those, that's sort of a transitional call to action. If they're like, hey, you know what? I've been thinking about this. I am going to ping them, shoot them like download something, a message,
Hmm.
and now they're starting to move into the conversion part,
Yeah.
which of course is my favorite part.
Well,
okay, so they get to the can I? I'll hold this question to the end. So we get to the conversion, and how do you classify that? How do you know they've sort of shifted into that part of the journey, or they've arrived at that part of
in
the journey?
conversion,
Is there a way you think about it?
for me, it is. So this is like the idea of like permission marketing and sales, which is kind of grandfathered by Seth Godin.
Right.
But like they're asking to talk to you, so you're not standing behind them in the scrub sink. They've reached out to you and they're going, hey, I'm interested and I want to talk. And why this is super important for small companies is because small companies might only have a handful of sales agents,
Right.
maybe one or two. So you cannot stalk people at the scrub sink. Don't look so sad, okay?
Don't take that away from me. Go ahead.
But wouldn't you like if somebody actually handed you a warm lead that you could go convert?
And
So
this,
like,
and this time we mean it. It's an actual warm lead.
yeah,
as opposed to some nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, yes, this time we actually mean it. We're like because it like what previously it would be like if somebody filled out like downloaded a guide and then you're calling and you're going like, so I heard you're interested. No, this is someone who's scheduled a demo or scheduled to talk to somebody, and now you're reaching out to them and you're going like, hey, let's talk. What problems are you facing? And this is where marketing and in the med device world, in the med tech world, B2B, this is where the worlds really unite. Okay? Where sales and marketing now work together, where for a lot of med device and med tech stuff, it's account-based support then at this point, because you're now trying to convert an account that may be millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands, like it's a large chunk of money. So now how does marketing support you with that conversion stuff? With the conversion, like with the one-on-one comparisons, with, it doesn't have to all be digital, with the lab that you're going to do, or
right.
Those types of events where you're now converting someone, which is a stage that is ultimately, in my mind, shared between sales and marketing. Okay. And
we don't like to share in sales, but I'm willing.
We're here to support. We're here to support you. I'm going to make you think it's your idea. We're here to support.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
that's better.
And then the final stage is the delight stage, and that's like it really depends what product you're selling and what you have. Like for a surgical rep, that means probably that you're going to be in the room multiple times a week, making sure that everything is flowing correctly. If you're not selling that, if you're selling software, are you making sure that their product updates are going correctly? Are you making sure that their stuff is working correctly? Is your customer service department doing a great job? Are you doing quarterly business reviews? Are you doing things to show your value to the customer where they go to a colleague who complains about something that they have and they go, we just started using XYZ company 6 months ago. I can't believe how well, not only does the product solve the problem, they're the greatest people on planet Earth. You should go use them, because we've said how many times, well, I don't care what anyone says. What's the best marketing in the world?
Somebody who's already using it, telling you about it, and they don't have any dog in the fight. They're just a thrilled, delighted user or customer, or however you're looking. Yeah, that's number one. It's the single best sales and marketing is somebody saying, oh, yeah, you got to try this. And it's somebody, it's a peer.
Yeah,
right?
It's a peer. So to me, I hope I've converted you, is the fact that like you're just transitioning. For small companies, it's so important that they transition the first two stages off as much as possible to digital. Not because Mark Copeland or like my dad isn't super effective at just walking into a place and going, we're going to schedule a demo, or we're going to talk. Do you have this problem? And I know you can do that. I know that there are killer reps out there that can do that every single day, but you can't be everywhere at once. And for a small company, that's a real pain point that they have. So they
Yeah.
got to figure out how to do the awareness and education stage as much as possible digitally so that when they do start talking to people, they're way more ready to buy.
I like it. I actually like that. Now, I'm skeptical of some of the terminology of this stuff, but when you called me like Thanos, I will admit that was you moved me to the
Top
conversion
five
stage.
moment of 2025.
I don't even know who the guy is, but he says I'm inevitable. I like that. But I do think what's more important is, as a salesperson, I look at this and say, if Ryan is doing stages one, awareness or familiarity, as I call it, but awareness, and two, education, if he's doing a good job of it, the things that are coming, my job is way easier to get people into stage three. Frankly, I'm good at stages one and two because I have to be. Mm-hmm. Stage three is where I want to live all the time and then deliver the people who are delighted and ask them to help with others. Like, I'd rather spend all day long doing stage three.
Well, and like you mentioned the conqueror before, right? For a conqueror, if one and two work well, then it's a dream because they just live in stage three, conquer, go back to stage three, conquer, go back to stage three, conquer, go back. Like
right.
they don't have to worry about all of the other stuff if they're actually getting. So like it's, I'm going to use a term I hate. It is a synergistic relationship between sales and marketing where, you know, it's super beneficial. And the funny part about it is why I see most of these groups struggle is not because they don't understand 3 and 4. It's because they don't understand 1 and 2, or at least they don't know how to do it digitally. And then they try to do it themselves, and then it doesn't work, and then they complain about it, and they go, "This doesn't work," blah blah. Like, and they're the ones who need it most. But when you try to take not to be ageist, but like if I tried to take you and told you to do 1 and 2, and you didn't know how to do 1 and 2, or you couldn't go and ask me, because I assume you would.
Right.
What you would, I've seen you get mad. You just be like, that would happen. You'd be like, we did a webinar and nobody showed up, and be like, what? Yeah. What did you like? Well, when did you start promoting it? You'd be like, oh, like 7 hours before. Is that a problem?
I don't think you need to rub it in my face. But you're right.
Yeah.
Like I do think the era of the conquering salesperson who goes door to door is over, and frankly, it should be. And I always knew this stuff existed, but you've sort of taught me what I call attraction marketing.
Yeah.
You're trying to attract people to you, not go chase them down. And that's not exactly what people like your dad and I did.
No.
But it could, that was sort of how we looked at it, is we're going to go chase down and show people that they have a problem and there are solutions out there of which we think we have a good one.
Yeah.
So I do like that. I will tell you, having sold small companies, the times that I walked into places, like when I was at Cephalon selling like this miracle provincial drug, but nobody knew about it, or very few. When you'd walk into a place and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know about a little bit about that," you were kind of like, "Really?" You were kind of shocked, and then you might have to get a thought that they had in their head out of their head because it was inaccurate. But at least they had some awareness of it, and it made that job much easier. And when it happened, I was thrilled. It just never happened. Like, it just happened so rarely.
Yeah.
That same with Globus, same with other products we've sold. Like, nobody knew it, and if they had, you were kind of shocked. So yeah, all right. So I let you walk us through the journey. You did a very nice job of it. Mm-hmm. So give me the 4 stages again.
So Well, we're gonna rename it for you. We'll call it the attract and awareness stage. Okay.
I like that.
Um, with the attract and awareness stage, consideration or education stage, decision or conversion stage, and then we're calling it delight because that's what I want to call it. So the
Okay,
delight
so
stage.
in reality, it's awareness, education, conversion, delight.
Yeah.
All right.
And the important part, if I can emphasize this to anyone who's still listening, would be like map it out. I cannot emphasize it enough. And maybe that's a whole different episode of like map out what you're doing. Don't throw stuff at the wall. Plan it
Well,
out.
let's finish on this question I'm going to ask you. If I had 25 targets, would you map those 20 out right now? Like, is that what you would suggest I do, and put them into that four parts of that journey? Would
Target
that be
audiences?
beneficial? What's that?
Are you saying target customers?
Oh yeah, let's say like I had 20 hospitals that I'm calling on selling
No,
something.
you're thinking old school if you think that way. Because if you have 20 targets and the idea is that you're going to attract them to you without now that doesn't mean you're not going to put those people in any of those stages, right? Now that doesn't mean that you can't go call on them, but you can't force someone to become aware of you. You can't force someone to
I'm
become
large.
you can't force someone to become aware of you. You can't force someone to educate themselves about you in an inbound marketing process. You can do that in an outbound process where you're targeting them in person or via email that you may have or phone
Let me
calling.
let me ask a question slightly different way.
Okay.
I have 20 targets I want to go after. I've talked to 5 of them, but I've got a map and I'm saying these are the big targets. And I've talked to 5 of these people or facilities, at least somebody there. I know where they are in my head in the journey, the sales journey. And there's 6 others that I'm going to go say something to somebody. There's 9 that I haven't done anything. Theoretically, I could put those people in that journey of these people don't have no awareness.
Yeah. Yeah,
These
you
people
could.
have some awareness, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I was kind of asking.
Yeah,
You know,
I know you're trying to put them in pipeline stages. Um,
I guess
Yeah.
that's what I'm sort of
It's-
asking. Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of trying to put them in pipeline stages where you're like, and I guess theoretically that is like who's aware of you, who's at you like, and you have to realize that and all of those 9 would just be in the 0. Like how some pipeline stages have 0, 1. They're all just sitting in the 0, and that doesn't mean that one day they won't move to 1, 2, whatever that looks like, but they're in the 0 stage. They don't know about you, and you can't force them to go into the education or you can't force them to go into the awareness. Like you have to attract them, right? It's like if I want to make a good metaphor or description, just because that's what I like to do, it's like those birds that you see on that are like peacocking. Like that's what you got to do. Go be a peacock. Okay. What a great way to
We
end.
should end. I
Yeah.
think we should end on peacocking being
Be
a
a
verb.
Go be a peacock. Okay. They're beautiful birds. All right. So that's breaking medtech.
Okay, before we
Yeah.
what should people do for whom this may have made some sense? Should they reach out to you? Should they buy Seth Godin's book? Should they?
You should
We're
go listen
always
to
selling
you
books.
should-
so
I would-
we don't- we
there's
have nothing.
there's always books to go to go buy. I mean, you can go listen to Seth Godin. There's a bunch of good. HubSpot actually has a really good because HubSpot's like the OG of CRMs that do inbound. HubSpot has a ton of resourceful guides. I actually have one. I'm in the process of redoing, but you could reach out to me. I will talk to you about it. But again, my call to action to someone would be like actually map out what does each stage look like. Go to HubSpot because you can get off. Go to HubSpot.
Yeah.
Look out what an inbound marketing journey is. They have they describe it a little bit different, and then look at it and go like, how is this different for med tech, and where do I fit in with these things, and what can I do?
I like it. Okay, so just as long as I'm still allowed to peacock at the scrub sink, that's all I
Yeah.
want to. Just don't take that away from me. Okay, so this has been Breaking MedTech, and we talked today about the buyer's journey and the 4 stages of it. And if you want to learn more, go to HubSpot, buy Seth Godin's book, follow Ryan, but learn about it, because if you're a small med device company, it really can accelerate your growth in a way that works while you're not,
Yeah.
which is really beneficial. So, Ryan, thanks. This is actually great, and I wasn't really that angry at you. It was
I
just,
know.
Come on.
I could have
I'm
been a
upset.
lot mean. I could have been a lot meaner. You can't come and hurt me now. So, all right.
I appreciate that. I am inevitable. See you next time on Breaking MedTech.
I'm Ryan.